Charlie, hello, first of all.
Okay.
It's always a pleasure to see you.
Always good to see you, Jimmy. It's all the time.
What Rosa Parks did, not giving her seat up on that bus all those years ago, did that, how did that affect you personally? I mean, you were in Detroit at that time, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in Detroit. That was 1955.
Was there any, was Detroit a very segregated city?
You know, it's a funny thing about segregation. See, I'm come from New Orleans, and I had to move those signs from the front of the bus, put it in the back of the bus, and sit behind those signs. So I just took it for granted and just did that, you know. So, but as far as knowing that I was being segregated, I didn't feel it that much until I came up north. Because, see, when they told me I couldn't go to that particular restaurant or I had to go in that particular bathroom, whatever it was, I did that automatic because it just was a way of life. But when they came to Michigan, it was all hidden. See, people didn't tell me, they didn't want me to come to this particular club. I had some friends of mine, student of mine was a bunch of white students that was studying with me, and they lived out in Dearborn, see, in Wyandotte. So after we get from studying, sometimes we wanted to go out and have a drink or something, a beer or something. They'd go out, and they didn't want me to come in. They didn't want to serve me. And these guys were cut up and thought of fighting in the place. So I told them a lot of time. I said, man, let's not go through all of that. But I got exposed to it more in the northern state than I did down south because it was a way of life to me down south. That's what happened. So Miss Parker did a wonderful thing. She had a lot of courage to put herself to test the law at that time. But it takes time for everything.
So it was so ingrained in the way you were raised in New Orleans.
It didn't bother. Only difference that if you went to the white movies, they had one entrance for you and the other entrance for them. That didn't bother me. I saw the same movie, you know.
Where was your house?
My house was in the 6th Ward. I was 3 blocks from Canal Street, where all the water was at. That's where I was at. See, I was 3 blocks from Canal. So, see, it's Canal, Iberville, Bienville, and Conti, and on Galvez. And then we took Galvez and went to Claiborne. Then you went going right into the French Quarter. From Galvez to Claiborne is about 6 blocks. So I was about 10 blocks from the French Quarters, 3 blocks from Canal. But that whole area there where all the musicians used to stay, my dad told me that he was living on Conti before I was born. He was living on Conti and Miro, and across the street was Johnny Sincere, you see? And that whole area had, and then right over the basin with T-Bar Renee, and they had Kid Howard, you know, Kid Sheep, you know. Then uptown where the Garden District at, the Garden District was the uptown where they had up around St. Charles Street where all the white slave masters had their big fine homes and things. That was the Garden District where that's another section of the wall that wasn't flooded, you know. But the area that I was in was flooded.
So it sounds like there were all these musicians. I mean, you grew up surrounded by music. Yeah. And were there a lot of parades? We always read about the parades in New Orleans.
Yes.
Why would people have a parade?
Well, you see, at a time they had an affair, a dance, or play, or anything, they would advertise that by on a wagon, the band would get on the wagon, and that's how Kid Ord put the tailgate out. They get on a wagon, they go to the different establishments, and the band would play, advertise whatever function that's coming up. If someone coming to town, they would get on the wagon, they go around and advertise what would be happening with the, who would come to town, where they're going to be performing at. So that's why they had a lot of parades. They have a parade for anything.
And it was always were these brass bands? That,
yeah, it'd be brass bands. It'd be brass band because you're when they advertise you to be. Sometimes they have a full set of drum. When I come up, they start having a full set of drum. See, but before that time, they used to have snare drum and just the bass drum and the trombone player and the trumpet player and the tuba player, and that's what they had the parade. That's before I thought the playing. See, because before that, that's where the band was set up. And Fletcher Henderson put the brass together and put the reeds together and started the swing area. But before that time, they were separate.
So your family played music then?
Yeah, my family originally came in from Singer Dominguez. My great-grandfather named Narcisse Gabriel, and he came into New Orleans around 1856. My grandfather, Martin Joseph Gabriel, was born in New Orleans in 1873. And my father, who was named Martin Manuel Gabriel, was born in New Orleans in 1899. And I was born in New Orleans in 1932. See, my grandfather had sisters, see, and they all were musicians too. And they played guitar, Mary, Alice. And I didn't know these people because they was all dead when I was born.
I've read that in the early days, you know, you had different groups of musicians who were all, I guess, considered colored. You know, like you had the Creoles.
Yeah.
You know, like Jelly Roll Morton and Sidney Bechet.
So you had the French Creole and you had the Spanish Creoles. See, well, with my grandfather and them coming from Singer Dominguez, there was Spanish Creoles. See, and on my mother's side, they're French. So we have French and Spanish. Then you have the African, and then you have the Italian, and all them different nationalities, the people down there separated themselves by the pick and taking of this game. They did that on their own.
But was this, was the music which they played different?
No. The Creoles uptown in the Garden District, my dad told me, they stayed together, played together, all of them. See, and some of the Creole passed for white, just like I was mentioned on the original jazz band. They were the first group that recorded this music in 1923, but there were two Creoles and they passed them for white. See, and they wasn't white. But when you go across the line, they don't pull the cuff off of one another. See, just like my mother's brother and them had the Salad Green show out of New Orleans.
So this was a show where it was...
That was the largest show came out of New Orleans.
What would a show consist of if you went to see the Silas Green show? What is it you would actually see?
What you would have